coming up on this week's travel show.
We're looking back at the time when I was finally able to fly home to Australia. Rajan tried his hand at falconry in Qatar.
There it is. Tight. More. خلاص. Okay. Done it? خلاص. Finished.
Steve took on the waves in Japan. And Lucy treated herself to a fry-up in one of London's fast-disappearing Greasy Spoon cafes.
This is a lot of food.
Hello and welcome to this week's travel show, where we'll be taking a look at some of the stories we've covered recently that go to show that hopefully the world's starting to look a little more familiar after 2 years of travel restrictions.
And over the past couple of months, while it's not been business entirely as usual for the team here on the show, we've been dusting down our suitcases and getting back on the road.
Well, it won't come as a great surprise to learn that I'm an Australian, although I have lived for most of the past 20 years in the UK. But at the start of the pandemic, when travel restrictions came in, it meant that I wasn't able to get back and see my family in Melbourne for the best part of 2 years. So luckily, in recent months, things have changed, as you'll see. Thankfully, after a late start, Australia really did a fantastic job in terms of getting vaccinated.
With a bit of a heart, kind of.
I won't be working as a barista anytime soon. Victoria, my home state, has already reached 90% vaccination, which is quite emotional for me because it's meant I can go home. So. It's going to be a lot of tears over the next few days. This is very exciting. Although I've completely lost the knack of how to pack. I used to be like, pew, pew, pew. I could be packed in 15 minutes. Now I'm like, oh God, what's the weather going to be like? Hot is the answer to that. I have to wait a little while while my test gets checked, but I'm like, I just want to go. So there's been a bit of a curveball in the last few hours. I've just received notification that the quarantine has been reimposed to some extent. So it was quarantine-free travel, now it's 72 hours of quarantine upon arrival and having to be isolated from my family. So the joyous reunion is maybe off the cards. I don't really know what's going to happen, how I'm going to be isolated within my family home, if that's possible. Do I need to get a hotel? I also need to get a permit to enter the state of Victoria, which, despite my research, I've just found out about. So it's getting a bit complicated. I guess the joys of travelling during COVID. Well, it says go to gate. Oh man, I'm so excited. I don't even care if I have to quarantine, I don't care. Taxi? Of course.
Thank you so much.
I've just checked in and I've just seen the Melbourne. It's fine.
Welcome on board. Qantas Flight 10 down to Darwin and onwards to Melbourne tonight.
We're just about to head off, and I'm so excited. Jackpot! on a long-haul flight. 3 seats to myself, yes. It was this low-lying kind of stress because it meant if something happened to someone at home, instead of being 24 hours away, 36 hours away maximum, now you just couldn't get home. It wasn't possible. About 15 minutes away from landing now, after a very long flight and a quick stop in Darwin.
And we hope you've enjoyed your service on board today. We do look forward to seeing you on board one of our aircraft again soon.
Guess who's out of quarantine? Well, I'm out. I'm free. I'm out of quarantine at long last, and it's given me a bit of a chance to reflect on what it's meant to come home. Missed you guys. My word, we are lucky to live in a time where in usual circumstances, you can jump on a plane and 24 hours later be on the other side of the world. In my case, I can be home. And I think the pandemic has sort of shown me that in past years I've probably taken that for granted. Oh, it feels normal to be able to do that. And it's not necessarily something to be taken for granted. And I think going forward, I'll feel fortunate every time I get on that plane. Come on. Oh, you are so Well, that was me finally heading home a couple of months ago, and I'm happy to report that most of the travel restrictions have now been lifted, so both citizens and visitors can head back down under. Next up, we're heading off to Qatar, host nation of the FIFA World Cup, due to take place there later this year. Now, it's said that soccer was first brought to Qatar in the 1940s and 50s by expat workers in the oil and gas industries. But when Rajan headed there in January, he discovered a sport that has a much longer history in the region.
If it's a real taste of Bedouin culture you want to experience, then January hosts a month-long Falcon festival called Mermi. If you had to compare being a spectator at a football match and a spectator here, how similar are they?
نشجع كرة القدم هو نفس الشعور اللي أحس به أنا ولا أفضل أكثر من كرة القدم.
This is more exciting than football.
Yes.
Ali Al-Meshadi organises the festival and tells me that falconry is more than just a hobby here, it's a way of life, and it's recognised by UNESCO as living human heritage.
القارة في قطر هي يعني متأصلة عندنا في البلد، ومن هرم يعني من سمو الأمير الله يحفظه وسمو الأمير الوالد، وجميع الشعب القطري يحب هذه الهواء، يعني هذا التراث بالأصل هو تراث.
One of the most popular events at Mermi sees the falconer and falcons getting in touch with their Bedouin past. Over a 2-kilometre distance, each falcon hunts a pigeon, replicating days gone by when falcons were used to help hunt for food in the desert. The festival is broadcast to a national TV audience and has impressive prizes ranging from brand new cars to huge amounts of prize money.
يعني هدد التحدي اللي يصيد الحمامة ياخذ 100,000 وينتقل مرحلة ثانية إلى سيارة لكسس أو 100,000 أخرى.
With so much at stake, Mermy is a one-stop shop for all your falconry needs, from GPS trackers to remote control planes, used to teach your falcons their craft. And it's even a place to train the falconers themselves.
Oh, in my mouth?
Yes.
Oh, wow. So I put my
This
mouth
side.
here?
Yes.
Wow.
Close it, yes. And same one by right hand. No, leave it. No, again, okay.
After the birds retire from competition, they're kept by their falconer or released into the wild to breed. But during their career, a top falcon can be worth up to 1 million Qatari rials, which works out roughly at £200,000.
Long one. Where is long one? There it is. Tight. More. خلاص. Okay. Done it? خلاص. Finished. Done it! I am a successful falcon hand. How do you know that the falcon is happy and healthy?
This one same as my son. This one same one from my family. I like this one. I give him everything. I take care about this falcon. When he's sick, I take him the emergency hospital or something. Should be check this one. What has happened? Because when I take care about this falcon, same I take care by my children.
Rajan, getting to grips with those magnificent falcons there in Qatar. Well, do stay with us because coming up, we're taking a look back at when Lucy went in search of the perfect fried breakfast in one of East London's fast disappearing greasy spoon cafes.
This is a lot of food. I'm going to try my hardest.
And Steve headed to Tokyo to check out if hosting the Paralympics has helped to make the city more wheelchair friendly.
Well, that was terrifying.
So don't go away. Well, after 12 months of delay, the Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics finally went ahead last year. And they proved to be like none other ever held before, with hardly any spectators allowed to watch the athletes compete. Despite that, they still pulled massive audiences online and on TV. Now, legacy is a word that's often used in relation to the Games. So a couple of months ago, we sent Steve Brown to Tokyo to find out if hosting the Paralympics had made the city a little easier for travellers who use a wheelchair. Here's a reminder of how we got on.
Here in Tokyo, the subway system is said to be almost entirely accessible, even if some of the adaptations are a bit bizarre.
So this is going to turn into a wheelchair lift, but they've had to shut everything off to make it happen. So I come on.
You won't find many of these adapted escalators around the subway. Normal lifts are far more common.
Brakes are on. Yep, no problem.
And that's probably a good thing.
Okay. And it's done. Thank you, gentlemen. Well, that was terrifying.
Now it's time for me to leave the capital on board one of their famous bullet trains.
So what's happening, Rozo?
Oh, so we're just trying to book wheelchair space for you in the Shinkansen.
Right, okay.
Some lines saw the number of wheelchair spaces on board treble in the lead up to the Paralympics, but it takes a while to find me a space.
It's turning out to be quite a faff, I think. They recommend that you book it all up in advance to save all of this, you know. That doesn't work if you don't know you're travelling until an hour before you need to travel.
Right.
All sorted. Well, here we go then.
I'm heading now to Japan's southernmost spot, Okinawa, which is made up of more than 100 subtropical islands. It's a popular holiday destination because of its year-round warm temperatures, and back in 2007, it was the first place in Japan to make a barrier-free declaration, a commitment towards making travel more accessible to all.
So, this foot. Okay, we are one. Oh my goodness.
Surfing is a year-round activity on these subtropical islands. And Taishi is an organiser for Access Surf, a local charity that helps people with accessibility needs, like mine, ride the waves.
Well, I have never been surfing before. Please reassure me, how many people have you taken out already?
始まってから今まででだいたい延べ人数で1000人近くになると思います。
I've got the wetsuit on. Let's make the most of it, shall we? Right, let's go.
And in. Well, I've been in for a ritual. Now I'm going in for recreational. Yeah, I'm ready. Let's go. Yeah?
This way round.
With me safely on the board, the team run through a few basics.
Yeah, good. Okay, so how do I fall down? I go over and I push the ball away from me.
It's better.
Okay, so I push away the only thing that I want to grab. Well, I think I've got the paddling. Should we try some surfing?
Yeah.
Well, to finish up this week, we have something for you that is quintessentially British. And we're not talking about afternoon tea or Wimbledon. We're talking about the Great British Fry-Up, a fried breakfast. A calorie-laden plate of fried eggs, baked beans, black pudding, mushrooms, tomatoes that have filled many bellies and cured many hangovers over the years. But this great tradition is under threat because the Greasy Spoon cafes that have traditionally served up this dish are disappearing up and down the country. Well, back in January, we sent Lucy to a cafe in East London that's determined to keep that Great British Fry-Up flag flying.
Hey, you must be Ned.
Hey, Lucy.
Hello, nice to meet
How are you?
Oh,
Should we do that? Nice to meet you. How are you?
I'm good, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
This cafe is a true family affair and it's been passed down between generations since 1900.
My dad was born upstairs in 1925 along with his brothers and sisters. We used to come in here before school, we'd come in here after school. It was part of our lives.
There's a really nice vibe in here as well.
Yeah, we like to keep a good little vibe. It's like when you're, like I said to you, it's like a second home for us. It's part of our life. So when you come in here, you're coming into our home. You get like a lot of regular people that come back and they really sort of rely on you. Like if they didn't come into the cafe, they maybe wouldn't talk to a lot of people during the day, like a lot of the older people especially. Where the world's getting bigger, you can't know everybody, but in little places like the cafe, it is like a real community hub to people, but there are less and less places like this.
The cafe attracts customers from all walks of life, even the odd celebrity. Gemma Collins is reality TV star and presenter who has been coming to Pellicci's for years.
I feel that this is like traditional East End here. It's got heritage, it's got culture. You know, if only these walls could speak, I'm sure there's been a lot that's gone on here over the years. Just that real family hub feel is very rare. And yeah, you know, this is the only place that I know actually that's got it.
Do you think we're beginning to see less of these kind of places now?
There are more challenges. Every day there's always new challenges. The price of everything has gone up. You have to put your price up a bit and it don't go down well with the customers. We're lucky, we were passed this down by our grandparents, but it takes a lot of money to set up a cafe, so not everyone can afford to do that. You need a bit of backing behind you. We enjoy ourselves as much as the customers do.
Yeah.
Probably more.
Every day, Anna and her mum Maria cook homemade food using locally sourced fresh ingredients. But in an area that's rapidly changing and as more big brand chains move in, the competition is getting tougher.
East London and all inner cities, I think, are like becoming gentrified or whatever this word is that they're using. And I just think the soul's being lost. And it's a case of like the little guy helping the little guy still. I think that's so important at the minute with all these big businesses. It's important, especially at the minute, to keep looking after one another, little guys, because fundamentally that's what keeps the country going, isn't it?
With, you know, taste buds kind of diversifying and like we're saying, you know, culture's changing, food culture's changing. How are you guys keeping up with the competition? What are you guys doing differently?
People have started to being able to travel, you know, a lot more and taste different and realise, oh, you know, it's actually there's something more than egg and chips. But some little things have to change. Like I say, for example, like that coffee machine. You wouldn't have had it like years ago. East End people wouldn't have had that coffee. They wanted powder coffee, frothy milk. I used to love it. We've often thought about maybe doing this, maybe doing that, and then my mum's like, no, and she's always been right. Do what you do and do it well.
Rupa Bodani is an event chef and food blogger who cooks a diverse range of dishes and knows how modern tastes are evolving.
So we're in East London, so many restaurants from all different places all over the world. Do you think that's what the younger generation want?
Yeah, I think people really do love all the variety, and you know, there's so many people like going vegan and, you know, or trying to be more vegetarian.
With all of that, you know, the traditional British cafe is struggling. Do you think it holds a place in the future in British food culture?
Oh, absolutely. I think they bring people together, serving up that nice warm grub that everybody enjoys.
You have no idea how much I'm looking forward to eating this fry up. I've seen it come past me a few times today. Bring it all, bring it all. This is a lot of food. I'm going to try my hardest. So if places like Polici's still going strong, I don't doubt for a second that the Great British Fry Up and the traditional British cafe will keep going strong.
Lucy there, keeping up the fine tradition of the fry up in East London. Well, that's all we have time for on this week's programme, but coming up next week.
I'm in the Netherlands to find out why more museums are opening their entire archives for public perusal. And poking around this vast gallery in Rotterdam, where absolutely nothing is hidden from sight.
The fact that everybody can see so many more artworks enables people to ask questions that we might never have thought about before.
And if you'd like to catch up with more of our recent adventures, you can find us on BBC iPlayer. We're on social media too, just search for BBC Travel Show and look out for the blue icon. Until next time, from me and all the Travel Show team, goodbye.